We're looking at Chapter 8 sinusoidal functions, looking at Chapter 8, Section 8.1. In this lesson, we'll express measures of angles in degrees and radians. So let's just recall, in previous chapters, we've studied various types of functions. In Chapter 5, we studied linear, quadratic, and cubic functions. In Chapter 6, we studied an exponential function. In Chapter 7, we looked at a logarithmic function. In these chapters, we've also investigated and analyzed equations and graphs based on these characteristics and answered questions on the functions. A radian is the measure of a central angle of a circle subtended by an arc that is the same length as the radius of the circle. So if we have the radius and we have an arc the same length as the radius, the angle measure here is radian is 1. So we are going to look at radians and degrees. 1 radian is equal to 180 degrees divided by pi, which just means that pi over 2 would equal 90 degrees, pi over 4 would equal 45 degrees, pi over 6 would equal 30 degrees. So if we're going to change from radians to degrees, we have to multiply by 180 over pi. So for example, if we had 5 pi over 4, and we're trying to figure out how much that would be in degrees, we would take 5 pi over 4 and multiply it by 180 degrees over pi. This would cancel the pi's and give us 5 times 180 degrees over 4, which essentially is just replacing the pi with 180 degrees. This will give us 225 degrees. We could also change from a degree to a radian measure. When changing from degree to radians, we just multiply by the reciprocal of what it was from radians to degrees. We're going to multiply by pi over 180. So if we take 135 degrees and we try to change it to a radian measure, we take 135 and multiply it by pi over 180. And so we really just have to simplify the fraction of 135 degrees over 180 degrees. That will give us 3 pi over 4 radians. So let's have a look at an example. In this case, here we are given radian measure. We have to determine the degree measure for each. So when we're determining the degree measure, we must multiply by 180 over pi in order to be able to cancel these pi's. So we take 2 over 3, or 2 pi over 3, and multiply by 180 degrees over pi, which will give us 120 degrees. If you want to attempt the next one on your own, you may wish to pause the clip. We are going to have pi over 4. We're going to multiply it by 180 degrees over pi. This will give us 45 degrees. We have 4 pi over 9 multiplied by 180 over pi. Once again, the pi's will cancel. This will give us 80 degrees. And we can do the opposite. We can change from a degree measure to a radian measure. Here we have 60 degrees, and we're going to multiply this by pi over 180. This will give us 60 over 180 pi. And of course, that's 1 1/3 pi, or pi over 3. Take 150, and when we're changing from degrees to radians, we're going to multiply by pi over 180. This will give us 150 pi over 180, which that fraction reduces to be 5 pi over 6. We'll have 315 degrees multiplied by pi over 180. This will give us 315 pi over 180, and this reduces to be 7 pi over 4. In summary, if we're changing from a radian to a degree, you multiply by 180 over pi, or you could replace pi with 180, or replace pi with 180 degrees. If you're changing from degrees to radians, you must multiply by pi over 180. These types of questions in converting from radians to degrees or degrees to radians will most likely show up on the multiple choice section, good multiple choice questions.